Hello everyone, today we're working on a 2024 GMC Denali with the L5P Duramax in it. Going to be doing some upgrades on the top side of the engine. The main thing we're doing here is we're installing a CCV crankcase ventilation upgrade from VSE. And if you want to look at the VSE products, it's runvse.com. Okay, so the kit that they provide will replace the original plastic one that came from the factory. The plastic kit from the factory incorporates some turbo boost into it, which is hot, and also you're at the top of the engine and it's going to be running hot all the time. Plastic and heat don't like each other real well for a very long time. It'll get out of warranty, but eventually that plastic will fail. And what they've done is they've upgraded that CCV system. They've got two main pieces to it. This here is what replaces the original crankcase ventilation. And then this here is going to be your oil fill. They're separated out on the valve cover. Okay, so it comes with these two main pieces, that hose. There's an elbow, and this is caps off the turbo boost going down. And then there's some bolts too, and then they've also got an easy out because the original bolts from the factory are a one-way bolt. They're only for installation, so you have to have an easy out to get them out. Okay, so what we're going to be doing here with this installation is we're going to be modifying the bypass filter system, which I have a previous video that I shot on this truck of the installation of the bypass system. Okay, and in that bypass system I return the oil from the bypass filter through the drain plug of the engine oil pan. Because you can't, at that time I didn't have this VSE system, and you can't return that oil to the original crankcase ventilation because it will feed right into the turbo and it'll cause your engine to run away. With this system it separates it out so we can return this right back to the valve cover. So that's what we're going to do. We're also going to modify the return hose for that bypass filter system that we installed earlier. So you can view that original video, and then this will be kind of a part 2 of that. So the way we're going to do that, Amsoil has a bypass oil filter return line swivel fitting. It's a BP89. Okay, and here's a picture of it, how it's installed. Okay, so the way it works, it's got O-rings up in the top so that you can take off your cap and you still have the swivel there. So your hose, your return hose and all that will be fastened onto that, but you have a swivel in there that allows it to turn so you can take off your oil fill cap without trouble. Okay, so the way that works is this VSE cap is a solid aluminum. Okay, and the shaft right here where it's threaded for that return, it's got a hole in the center. That's 3/8. So what we're going to do is we're going to drill a 3/8 hole through here, and then on the top side of this swivel there's an O-ring on that washer, and that'll seal it on the top side of this cap. And then the lock nut goes on basically on the bottom side of that cap, and you tighten it up and it's kind of sandwiched in there. So that's where we're going to be returning that bypass return oil back to the engine. Okay, first thing we've done is we've unhooked the negative posts on both batteries, so we have no power to anything. And right here we have a clamp we're going to take off, and there's one down here at the bottom, this pipe down here as well. We're going to loosen that up. So this clamp right here, loosen up and get it loose. Get it loose enough so that we can get it off on the top side here. And I'm going to turn it sideways. I think that might do it. Give me enough room to do what I need to. If not, I can always pull it out later. There we go. Get it spun out of the way. Okay, so we're going to take off this oil fill. See how that turns in there. There it comes. See if I can get it out. Take off the cap. Try that. Come on out of there. Yeah, we might have to wait till we get the bolts out. Okay, so there's a hose right here. It's got to come off. And then up here in the turbo inlet, there's a clamp right here at the end of my finger. We're going to have to get that off too. So the next step is down in here. We've got there's a bolt here and one down here. You can't see them probably with the camera. And then back here's a couple more, and we'll use those easy outs to get those out. And then we can take off this assembly right here. And then there's 2 bolts also back here where this turbo boost line comes into that crankcase ventilation. So 2 bolts kind of right there at the end of my fingers that have to come off. I think those are 10 millimeter. So we're going to go ahead and start taking this stuff off and be back with you. Okay, I've got this easy out that they send along with this VSE kit. And we're going down, it's recessed down in here a ways where we have to get on those bolts to take them out. So I need something to hold this in, otherwise it's going to fall out of that socket. So what I'm using is just some thin plastic here I got out of the garbage can. And it'll thicken up, give you a little thickness to allow you to fit into that socket and stay put. So gives you a nice snug fit so that you can hold it upside down and it ain't going to fall out. And then you can take either scissors or something and trim the plastic off. So that's what we're going to use to get it down in where we need to go. I just wanted to show you that. Okay, we got that plastic trimmed off around the outside, and that easy out's pretty snug in there for me. And we're going to put that down on the bolt. I'm going to give it a smack here, drive it in a little bit and get her started, and then we can go ahead and take that off. Doesn't look like they're in too tight either. It's coming right on out. So there's basically 4 of those bolts. I'll show you here when I get it out, but there's 4 of them you got to take out to get that crankcase ventilation off. So right there's the first one. Okay, so there we go. Okay, I got 3 of those bolts out that hold this on. I got the 4th one back here, and it's kind of, you're going to have kind of a wobble drive or something to get in there because it's a little bit offset. So that's what I'm using on this one is a wobble drive, and I can get in there and still get on it. So that'll help a bunch with that back one towards the inside. See if I can get it on, get that baby out. It's a tougher one to get. Yeah, I don't think I'm turning it yet. Nope, didn't get a good bite yet. Try that one again. This back one here is definitely going to be the toughest one to get. See if I can see it better. Try and drive it on a little tighter. Drive it in a little further, see if I can get a bite. Hope so. Oh man, looks like that one's going to fight me. Well, I'm going to see what it's going to take to get on there and get that baby out. It's not in a good spot at all. Oh, come on. Wow. Looks like that back one's going to be a fun one. I'm going to get a shorter extension, see if I can get in with that. Okay, on this back bolt on the rear, the inside one, I can't get in there with a socket decent to make that work. So I've kind of had to improvise and overcome. So what I've got is a socket cap set. The socket cap set has 1/4, 3/8, and 1/2 inch, and this is what they look like. Okay, and what they do is they allow you to get a wrench in somewhere where you can't get a ratchet, and you can put it right in the top of the socket, and then you can turn it with a wrench from the side, and that's what we have to do on this one. And then what I've also done, I got a 9/16 ratchet wrench here, and I'm going to put on the top of it. And then the thing still wanted to kind of turn out on me, so what I'm doing is using a pry bar right here to push down to get a bite. Okay, and you don't want to get too crazy here and bust something on that turbo. But I think that's getting me kind of what I need to get that bolt out. I think it's biting. I'm trying it anyway. Okay, so that's just a word to the wise on that back bolt there in order to get it out. Because you can see you can't get a socket, or I should say an extension or ratchet down there decent to get on it. And then that down pressure from the pry bar gives you just enough to get in there and get it bit. Get a bite on that bolt. So that's something you might want to invest in before you start this job. Okay, let me see what I got. I think I got it coming out. Guess what? It hasn't broke loose yet. That's not a good sign. Let's try her again here. Get a little down pressure on it. Yeah, I think it's just turning out the inside of the head of that bolt. Can't get enough pressure. I might have to get a different size easy out and try it. Let me double check it here. Can't see where the hoop down there either. Yep, it's just turning inside the head of that bolt. Alright, I'm going to have to try something different. I've got some different size easy outs I'm going to try. I've got a set of easy outs here, and the bit that I have is just a little bit bigger than the one they sent with VSE. And I'm hoping I can get a bite on it. We're going to give it a try and see using the same type of method and see what happens. Like I say, this back one here, if you get her right the first time, and if I'd have tried this the first time instead of trying to go on an angle with that wobble drive, I probably would have been better off. But I'm going to try and push it down here and get a bite. There we go. And we'll put on the ratchet wrench and see what we can do. Put a little down pressure on it. There. I think I'm moving it now. I think it's getting looser. Yeah, I think we're getting her out now. Okay, so in hindsight, I think what I would have done here is I would have used that cap, that socket cap from the get-go on a pry bar, and I probably could have gotten it out. But since I tried going in with the wobble drive a little bit on an angle, it just didn't get enough grip. So that's just a word to the wise. Try to do this on that back one, and then if that don't work, you better have some extra easy outs to go in there. But I think a guy could probably get it the first time if we try this method right here that I just used with that standard easy out from VSE. I think I got her. Yep, got it out. Okay, so now that whole thing is free to come loose. Alright, so that was the biggest pain in the butt so far. But we got her. Okay, we've got this CCV loose here. Got all the bolts out. And up here on the turbo inlet there's a looks like a stainless steel band type clamp on there, and it's looks like it's a welded on clamp or some type of a squeeze on clamp. Nothing to take it off. We're gonna have to cut that. So what I'm gonna do is get these lines out of the way here, and I'm gonna cut it with a Dremel tool. Just give it a little slice, make it coming off a lot easier. See if I got it through. Doesn't look like it. Not quite yet. Watch out for your air conditioning lines. They're right there. Don't hit those. baby's got to be about ready to come off of there. There it is. Okay. Now, see if we can pull that off. There it comes. Okay. Now we can go ahead and take out this fill neck. Now that we got some room to get it out. There's that. And down here we've got something hanging on. Looks like a little Christmas tree. And that's going to come off. Probably have to break that one, I'm guessing. There it goes. Okay. There we go. Now we've got that out. Set that aside, and then we're going to start cleaning things up and get ready to put that VSE stuff in. Okay, I covered up that inlet, or I should say that outlet there for the turbocharger before I did that grinding, so we didn't get any grinding dust in there. Okay, so we're going to take and clean up the surface area down here where the VSE system gets bolted on. Some oil on there. So we now have two separate holes that are probably 3-4 inches apart. Okay, and then I'm going to cover up those holes right now because I don't want anything to fall in there. Put something over them. There we go. Because I sure don't want anything falling down in that valve cover. And then we're going to put on the this cover back here where we took off that turbo boost line. And that's what this one here is for. It's got an O-ring on the bottom side. And when we go to put these on, these are a 6mm bolt, 10mm head. And the torque spec that I get online for these are a stainless bolt, and they're they got a spec on the head. I think it's an A2. They call for about 55 to 60 inch-pounds of torque. So the other thing I'm going to mention too is I'm going to put some small fastener LOC-TITE on the threads. I'm going to do that on all these bolts, just for vibration and so on. But I'm going to get this on there first, just get it hanging, and then I'll get the other one. I'll get my LOC-TITE thread blocker and put on there. Alright, this is an old bottle. You can't see the name on it or anything, but it's LOC-TITE, and it's a small fastener stuff. It's kind of a pink color. We'll put some of that on just to make sure everything stays tight. I'm going to come back and torque those after I get the rest of this assembled. Okay, now take our paper towels back out. Now we can start assembling the components for this VSE. Okay, I took both these fittings out, put a little grease on. You can put either grease or oil on, just give them a little bit of lube as you go in. And it's an 1 1/8 wrench size. And these are aluminum, so you don't want to get too crazy on tightening them. There's a plug on one side and then this fitting on the other. Come on, there we go. Let's see if I can get the box in. Oh yeah, that works. Okay. All right, that should be good enough. Now we're ready to put that back in. All tightened up. Okay, I got these bolts here. I got some Loctite on them for this filler neck. We're going to go ahead and put that in. We don't want to lose any of them bolts down in the hole, that's for sure. Or down in the V either of the engine. Okay. Alright. Looks like they're both started. Now I've got an extension here with a 10mm. Get them tightened up. And again, we're going to do about 60 foot or 60 inch-pounds, right in that range. You can go a little tighter if you want, but right in that range generally it'll handle that. Okay, we're done there. That's good and solid. Next piece is going to be the ventilation piece. We got that right here. We'll set that down. I can tighten up this nut here on that gooseneck with it installed. So that's not a problem. These other two, like I say, you're going to want to do those in the vise or before you put it on. So we'll set that in there and get it in place. And I got to grab my bolts. And also you're going to need a 5mm Allen to tighten those up. So I'm going to get those, get a little Loctite on, and we'll be back with you. Okay, I've got Loctite on these Allen head bolts. They're a 5mm head. We're going to just snug those down a little bit. And we'll torque them after we get them snugged. If I can get my torque wrench in there anyway. Yeah, this one's going to be a tough one on the inside because that turbo outlet is kind of in the way. Might have to use a wobble drive or a universal, we'll see. Okay. Where did I set my torque wrench? There it is. Okay. Okay. See if I can get on that other one. That's going to be a booger. Okay, so we got one torque there. I'm going to get this other one here. Get that torque down. I got to figure out the combination to get on there. And then also this black nut here is 1.25 inches. So once you get those two bolts tight, then we can get that pointed where we want it and get it tight. Okay, I've got a wobble drive extension that just sneaks me by there with that 5mm socket, Allen head socket, to get that torque down. And there we go. Okay, so that's done. Next thing is to tighten up that black nut. Put your finger up there in the gooseneck of that elbow and get it where you want it, and hold it in place. And we can torque that down. Come on, baby, get on there. Looks like we got a problem here. Wow. Something ain't quite right there. And I didn't even put much torque on that at all. Wow. Something's happening with that thing. It's not getting tight. Oh, wow. Okay. So they got a groove and a snap ring to hold that together. Wow. Looks like that thing don't get much torque at all. Wow. That's kind of interesting. Now, what to do, what to do. Well, looks like I'm going to have to figure something out with that. Because there ain't much holding that in there at all. Wowza. Okay. That don't look too robust to me. Well, I'll have to figure something out on that.
Ready.
Okay, so far I've liked the VSE kit, except for this tin foil elbow. I have to give them a fail on that one because, as you can see, they have a little snap ring in here that's supposed to be held in the groove there to tighten it up. Well, about the time you get just a little torque to seal this up on that taper, because it seals on this taper, it pulls right off. And I didn't put much pressure on that thing at all. I am not pleased with that. It wasted me about 2 to 3 hours worth of time finding something that is a little more robust that'll hold up. This is what I got. It's almost exactly the same, except for this one here, you ain't going to pull that nut off. You can see there's some metal, there's some beef to this thing. Okay? So that's what we're going to use in place of it. It's got the hose barb, it's a 3/4 inch just like the other one. So yeah, I'd have to say that's a fail on their part. There's no reason whatsoever they couldn't have put something in more robust like this right here. Because you have to have a little bit of torque to make it seal on that taper. So that's a word to the wise. I don't know how many guys have had that problem, but I just fixed that one. And a guy shouldn't have to. They should have that all engineered out. So we're going to put that on right there. And again, that's 1 1/4 inch. We don't have to be crazy tight on it, but we want to make sure we aren't touching the filler neck, and we want to make sure we aren't touching that intake runner there too, or whatever that is. Looks like an intake runner. So yeah, I didn't have much more than the weight of the wrench on it when I was tightening it, and it popped that right through that snap ring on that tin foil aluminum one. Okay, back that up just a little bit, because I don't want it hitting when I take off my cap here. The hose is going to come right up by that cap. I might have to put something in there to hold it. Let's see what I got. Here we go. I think I can use an extension to hold it in place where I want it. That should work. Okay. There we go. With that one there, we can get a little torque on it. It's nice and solid. That'll work beautiful. Alright. That takes care of that problem. Okay, we're going to take a look here at the fitting I put in. You can kind of see it down there. There's got kind of a yellow ring around it. See if I can get a little more light in here. Maybe that'll help. Try it anyway. I don't know if that's going to be too much or not enough. Let's try this. Let's see what that does. There. Okay, now you can see the VSE cap, and right there is the gooseneck that we just put on. The one I bought from a hydraulic store. And we got that running. We're going to put the hose on that end first. I put a little bit of lubricant in the end of the hose just to make it slip on better. But just push it on. And the nice thing about that hose barb fitting there, you aren't going to need a clamp for it. It's on there tight. Okay. So we push that down all the way, and then we make a loop up here, and we go back into the turbo right here. It's kind of hard to see, but right there is where the line is. And there's a spring clamp. They send along one spring clamp, and that spring clamp right here it is for this end of the hose where it goes on that PVC pipe. Okay, so we got to get that on yet. We're going to cut the hose. So then we'll be done with that the hose for that CCV reroute. Or not reroute, but CCV upgrade. Okay, I've been trying to put this hose on from VSE up on the intake on that turbo inlet. Turbo inlet is a plastic nipple that this has to go over, and you can see what it's doing. The fitting is actually quite a bit bigger than the hose, and what it's starting to do is starting to cut that rubber. I can't get it stretched over it. So what I'm planning on doing here, I may take this old hose off, because I can put a hose clamp on here, a worm gear hose clamp, and make this work. And what I'm going to do is cut this one here gently and try and reuse this hose if I can. Alright, there we go. So I'm going to see, I did damage the hose. I'm going to see if I can cut it off, still use it. I'm going to see how it looks and what it looks like. But I think I can slice out that and still use this hose. But what I really don't want to do is I don't want to get any of those pieces of rubber down inside that intake going into the turbo. And you can kind of see what's happening here from that plastic. It's cutting that rubber from that plastic nipple on that intake for the turbo. So I'm going to see what I can do with this here, and we'll be back with you. Okay, I cut off those original clamps that were on the hose from the factory, and there is a couple grooves in there, but I can get the clamp up here kind of beyond those grooves, and it's fairly thick, that material, so we can get beyond those. So if you're going to use like a die grinder to cut those off, be careful, don't go too deep. But I believe this is going to work out a whole lot better than the 3/4 inch hose that they had, because this here is a metric fitting and it's just a little bit too big, and it's kind of a pain in the rear end to try to get that on there without getting rubber down inside feeding into the turbo. So I got a couple of hose clamps here, worm gear hose clamps I'm going to put on, and we'll slip that on, and I got that backward. Let's go the other way. There we go. So we'll just reuse that one because it's going to work a whole lot better, and I'll put this worm gear hose clamp on there, and that'll take care of that. Okay, I'm making my way up here to show you the install of that hose. We got it on right here. I got a clamp down there, a worm gear clamp, and then also down here I'm going to try and worm this in here so we can see what we're looking at. You can see the fitting there that I added in, and then also right down there at the end of my fingers, that worm gear clamp to hold on the hose. So I reused the original hose because it fit a whole lot better. And get my light back up here. There we go. So that there's the install. Just be careful cutting those clamps for that original hose so you can reuse it. It just works a whole lot better than that hose that they send along. So there's a couple modifications you're going to want to know about as far as the hose, and also that fitting down there. I'll try and put the industry standard number for that fitting that we had trouble with to replace this aluminum one. I'll try and put that in the description as far as the part number for it. So Yeah, this here's pretty chintzy. I'm not real happy with that at all. Alright, I got this in the vise here in my mill, and we're going to drill this out, get everything nice and true, and we're going to drill it out 3/8 inch hole right on through. Okay, we've got that drilled out and ready for the swivel. Okay, there's a little burr left over from drilling on each end, so I'm going to use a countersink and countersink it just a little bit. There we go, it feels good. That gets rid of any of those burrs. Okay, so next thing we've got this return for that Amsoil bypass. You can see this this washer has an O-ring on that's going to seal on the top side. So we'll put that on there, and then we can go ahead and tighten up. I'm going to clamp this gently in the vise. Don't want to get too crazy with it. And then I'm going to, it's a lock nut that's on there, and it's a 9/16. I'm going to finish it up with a wrench. We don't want to go too crazy on tightening it, just get it snug. And there it is. Okay. It's all installed. Now, the return line will come into this 90-degree GIC. So this has pipe threads right here, and Amsoil sends along some LOC-TITE with their BMK21 kit. So we'll put some of that. It's a pipe thread type sealant, but it's a LOC-TITE product, so it locks it but also seals up the threads, because this is a tapered pipe thread on there. So we'll put that on, and I'm going to clamp that in the vise as well. And I believe that's a 9/16. Yeah, I can take that swivel then and just thread it on. Okay, so there it is, all installed. Now we got a swivel so we can take our cap off without disassembling the line. It's all completed there, ready to go. Okay, so here's the Amsoil bypass filter, standalone bypass that I've got on this truck already, and you can see here also the hoses and where they're routed. Okay, and you can see the return hose I have plumbed right back into the crankcase drain for the oil pan there. And then there's a skid plate there to protect it. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a new, basically a new line from the outlet of the of that bypass filter there. And then we're going to come up beside the PPE filter right here. And instead of coming down with this line right here, we're going to go up into the engine compartment. So what that'll do is it'll eliminate all these hoses down here low. But again, we can't do that unless we have that VSE system on there to be able to return that oil to the oil fill cap. So the next step is to put that hose on from the bypass right here on up, and we'll get that done and be back with you. Okay, we've got this return line routed and up here to the oil fill cap for that PPE. And as we route that, I want to make sure I stay away from the steering shaft and anything like that. So I come down right over here, kind of behind that battery box and electrical box. And there is, if I can get a light on it here, I'm going to try. It's kind of tough doing this. Let's see what I got. Now I put a zip tie on down here. Let's see if I can see it. You can see the end of it right here. Got my hand on it. I gotta trim it yet. But there's a tab sticking down, right down there. I don't know if we can see it or not. But you can see where that zip tie is at, and that's where I got it zip tied onto that metal. There's a hole in that tab, and it's kind of underneath right there by the antifreeze box and this electrical box right here. Okay, and then I go and it curves back. Let's see if I can get a shot of it here. Just say it's tough. Everything's tight in here. I'm going to try and see and wiggle this line so you can see where it goes. And I've got it on the outside towards the wheel side of the hoses down here. Let's see if I can get my hand down there. Let's see if we can see it. Kind of right down here, there's a couple of hoses that are for the Hydro Boost. So I'm on the wheel side of those two hoses. And then I bring it down. Let's see if we can see it down here. Tough one, man. Let's see if I can get in there and see it. It's kind of hard to see. But the best thing is just route it away from anything that's going to be, causing any trouble. And then we'll go to the bottom side and I'll show you what it looks like down there as well. But that kind of gives you some idea here what that all looks like in the return oil, and that eliminates you from having to go up through the oil pan as long as we got this VSE system on there. Works good. Okay, so I put a gold plug magnetic plug in on the drain pan there where I had the oil returning. Took off the skid plate, and so we don't have any of those hoses on the bottom side anymore. And right up there's our PPE long filter, full flow filter. And then right here is the bracket and bypass system. Back up here a little bit, see if I can get a little wider shot of it. Okay, and that's right on the frame rail, bolted to the frame rail. And then right up here we've got the supply and return line going into that bypass. And then right here we're routing that, let's see if I can get this, here we go. So this one right here is your return line going back up. And I've got that routed so that we don't cause any problems on up in there. Can't see a whole lot up in there, it's just too tight. But I'm trying to give you my best shot on it there. So that puts everything more towards the top side of the engine for the return and just cleans up down here. So, and there's guys that do a lot of off-roading, stuff like that, that don't want those hoses down there. So this kind of eliminates that issue. We've got this line rerouted here up to the top side. We're going to start the truck up and show you what the flow looks like. Go ahead and start it. Okay. There's the flow out of that standalone bypass. Gives you some idea what it'll look like. Alright, shut it off. Alright, that's it for the VSE installation, and also the be kind of the second half of the bypass install for using the VSE. So I want to thank you for watching my video. Have a great day.